my name is Edirisa Ssembatya, the Managing Director of Finding XY, and I'm joined by
Merab Twinomugisha, the Project Analyst at Finding XY.
Merab. People always ask us, how can they identify business ideas?
That's true,
How do
almost
I
every
come up?
day.
Yeah. How do I come up with a business that I can do and generate an income? Right?
Yeah.
And it's a hard question to answer for some people. Right? So today what we want to do is to show you a simple framework from one of our toolkits on how you can actually come up with a business idea that can help you generate an income. Over here we have a simple structure for this toolkit, so we'll try to draw it out for you to make it very easy for you to use at home. Right? So up here we have what we call a problem or opportunity. So when you're generating business ideas, the mindset should start from what is the opportunity in the market, or what is the problem that I can solve.
Yeah, what is the environment you're in facing? What is the most pressing challenge in your environment?
And then you also look at other stakeholders. What is the experience of the other stakeholders? Do they see the same problem? And then we think about the solutions, right? After identifying the problems and the opportunities, what is the solution that you can create? And in the solution, here we encourage you to brainstorm, right? Come up with as many ideas as you can of what can be a solution, or what a solution can actually look like.
Yeah, you can even bring in more people, work as a team to make sure that you tap into all the possible solutions, to make sure that your final solution is actually fit to solve the problem you're trying to solve.
So let's try this practically, right? So what is the thinking here? So let's use a case. For example, probably you are a tour operator, right?
Yeah.
And the lockdown has affected you, you're not generating any money, and you want to come up with an alternative business of how you can get some quick income, either for the short term or the long term. What do you do there?
That's correct. So now we're going to get into it, look at the problem that your environment is facing, and then we'll start. You can look at as many problems as possible and then prioritize on one or two.
Great. So quickly, we're going to do this exercise. It's a very short exercise. Let's brainstorm some ideas, right? Okay. Probably one of your first problems is the high transportation, right? Probably you see ever since the government opened up, right? Transport is very high. Fewer numbers of people are required to sit in a taxi, so it becomes very expensive.
Yeah, if you're to notice, it's been doubled. If it's been 1,000, it's now 2,000, and it has greatly affected business.
Yeah. Another problem we can quickly identify is the poor infrastructure, right? Yeah. Everyone has gone through a pothole. Some are giant holes, some are mini holes, right?
Yeah.
But the roads are bad, right?
That's true. And it worsens in villages because they are not only bad, they are also bigger. Big trucks can't fit. Yeah. So it's somehow bad.
And then you have access to agricultural markets, right? Many farmers are producing food. Recently we had the issue with maize. A lot of farmers produced the maize and the price of the maize had to go down. Most recently it was the matoke, the bananas. People were unable to sell the bananas because the prices were
really low. Because even in the villages, a bunch, you won't believe 1,000.
Yeah. That is not good for anyone.
That's true.
And then we have the high debt, right? So much has been going on. People are not working, and we had debts to pay. Businesses had debts to pay, right? And yet people are not generating income, so it's a challenge.
Yeah. After looking at the problems that your society or environment is facing, now you're going to look at what other stakeholders think about your challenge. What challenges are they facing as well? Yeah. When you talk about stakeholders. We're looking at NGOs, we're looking at corporate companies, we're even looking at financiers. So it's a broad category. So some of the challenges we have thought about, of course there are more, but one, there is lack of financing options. Now when you look,
this is related to the high debt, probably. Maybe they look at this as a stakeholder. Maybe the high debt is as a result of lack of enough opportunities to access finance. So they end up paying the interest rate, high interest rate.
Yeah, even the options, there are more options apart from debt. So even this information you need to be there. Okay, the next one is poor coordination of farmers. Now when
the access to markets, right? Probably the stakeholders think because there are no markets, it's because the farmers are not coordinated.
Because of course most of them are either working on a small scale and they are not even in touch with other fellow farmers, so it's difficult to coordinate it on a large scale. So it is a very big challenge. When we look at lack of organization, we can actually somehow relate it with coordination of farmers. Because first of all, it's difficult to organize a sector where the people within the sector themselves are not organized. How are you going to start organizing something from the top, yet people participating within the category are not organized? So this lack of organization in the general sector is somehow due to the poor coordination of farmers. And when you look at poor infrastructure, this is generally general. We have looked at it in the problems that our society is facing, and definitely stakeholders are also doing the same. So I'll hand over to my colleague Eddy again.
Okay. So having looked at all this, we quickly come up with a solution. So solution number one is transportation network. That is our first solution. And we think this can help address the issue of access to markets of agricultural produce.
Yeah, that's true. If you're collecting from these different production points to one main collection center, that would make it easier since many actually fail to collect there.
Super. Skilling on how to start a lean enterprise, right? We thought about this because everyone is thinking of the high debt, right? Access to loans can be expensive, especially if you want to start something new. So maybe you want to do something on how to skill other entrepreneurs to start up lean businesses, right? And another solution we quickly thought about to some of these database for cheaper debt options, right? Because of the high debt, maybe you want to provide a service of how people can quickly identify much cheaper financing options. And the last one we thought about was an online sales platform that can help, especially agricultural producers quickly sell their produce, right? As a solution that you can also provide. So having identified all these solutions, we've looked at what is the problem or opportunity available to you in the market. We looked at high transportation costs, poor infrastructure, access to markets for agriculture, agricultural produce, high debt, and then we look at what are other stakeholders thinking. They also see the lack of financing options, they see coordination of farmers, the lack of organization, and poor infrastructure. We quickly came up with the solutions now to some of these problems, and we say, look, maybe you can provide a service where you provide rural transportation network, right? In the rural places where usually farmers get challenges, right? To transport their goods to the markets. Maybe you can set up a chain of trucks to collect some of this produce, or also such trucks to collect produce from the rural places and bring them to the markets, right? And then we talked about skilling on how to start lean, because most businesses are starting up very expensively. So how do you go about the process of how to start a cheaper option for the business, right? And then a database for cheaper debt options where you can easily get information about cheaper financing options. And finally, one of our last solutions was an online sales platform for agricultural produce where people can easily find um, food that they can buy for their home.
Yeah.
Right? So lastly, in this thinking process, in this framework, is for you to challenge your solutions, right? Because you have all these solutions, but you're limited, right? As an individual, right? On what you can do or how you can go about this, right?
Yeah. So now you have to look at the solutions and look at your resources. Are they enough? Are they sufficient for you to actually run with this probably project you're trying to launch?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in challenging these solutions, you go through a process of, if we have the rural transportation network, you have the scaling, you have the database, and you have the online sales platform. Which one of these is most feasible for you to implement, right?
Yeah.
Let's start with the online sales platform. And when you're challenging solutions, there are things you think about. Number one thing is resources, right? Do you have the resources for you to start up a business for one online platform, right? Do you have the technical skills, right? Do you have the time to do this, right?
The knowledge itself, how this whole platform works, what are the requirements, even there is registration. It is a whole process that you have to be conversant with.
Yeah. And then we also look at the database for the cheaper debt, or for cheaper debt options. Maybe this requires for you to do desktop research, put out a report, or maybe go out and do a survey of these financing options. Is that your skill set, right? Do you have writing skills? Do you have mobilization skills? Partnership building skills? Is that something that you're competent in? Right?
Because probably it will even involve you speaking to even corporate companies, organizations, trying to pitch this idea to them. People are suffering because of the state. Is it possible to maybe cut down the interest rates? So it also needs this experience.
Yeah, you need a high level of experience and also networks, right? Because you should know some of these institutions, some of these banks, some of these investors, for you to be professional and probably help you build a linkage between them and the target groups. And the other thing is skilling. Solution we came up with was skilling on how to start lean. And this is a training. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
So do you have the skill to do what you're doing, do it so well, and guide businesses on how you can start in a lean way?
Yeah.
And lastly, rural transportation network, right?
Yeah. So of course here you're looking at can you source these trucks? Can you even organize the farmers? Can you organize these people to be interested in it? Because you can provide all this material, but they don't use it.
So when you're thinking about all these things, after reviewing what resources are available to you, there are two very important factors for us. Number one is can you generate a profit? And number one, what is the value of this service? Or what is the impact of this service?
And
right?
how unique is it? You've been doing it, it just collapsed.
So if you have the resources, for example, we have the resources to serve the rural transportation network, right? We can easily outsource buses, right? Not buses, lorries, trucks, to collect the produce, bring them to the market. We can easily identify the margins that we'll be making on this produce, and we think that we're actually going to make a good profit off this, and we know that it's really going to help so many farmers. Right? The country, Uganda is highly agricultural, right? So we know this can really help so many farmers get their produce in the market, right?
I also think this is very impactful.
So quickly, we have a solution for you, right? And that's how you can always go about your process of thinking. So whether you're in the startup phase or you are a grown business and you want to change your model a little bit, this is always a good way of how to think about solutions that you can provide. Thank you.
Thank you.